Hello, I'm Brent Bell from the University of Washington Information School. Let me tell you about an OWL ontology I designed for the domain of passenger trains. So, why did I choose trains? I actually don't know that much about the domain, but I like trains and train travel, and would love to travel across the country by rail sometime. Plus, my 4-year-old nephew Ronan here is absolutely obsessed with trains. I mean, really obsessed. So beyond giving me the chance to explore an interest of mine and an all-consuming passion of my nephew's, the purpose of this ontology is to describe important classes and instances of these classes in the domain of passenger train travel and the semantic relationships between these. Ideally, this ontology would drive a website devoted to railway travel that enables user discovery about current and historical occurrences in this domain. This ontology provides a broad overview of the domain, focusing on major classes like route, train, car, and station, and how these connect. It is not a specialist resource, and does not describe rail parts and processes in great detail. The focus again is on passenger trains and passenger train travel, not freight trains and cargo transportation. This ontology could easily expand to include freight trains, though, or integrate with ontologies that facilitate rail operations, like route scheduling. I actually came across a few of these during the course of my research. Um, the audience for a website driven by this ontology would be comprised of new and veteran rail fans, people interested in passenger routes, present and past, the trains that travel or once traveled on them, and the different types of locomotives and cars that comprise different trains. There are a lot of railway buffs out there. I found a Yahoo group for people to share information about current and historical passenger train consists. Consist is the term for the combination of cars that make up a given train. I also found a directory for at least 1,000 different rail enthusiast websites, but I didn't come across a site that serves as a central repository for all of the information being shared. I think an ontology like the one I've been working on here could facilitate just such a website. So here are my classes. Most of these are pretty obvious, I think. Train, route, train station. You will note that there are many different kinds of passenger cars. I could have included even more than this, but had to draw the line. You might also note the separate subclasses of train and railroad car involving something called a multiple unit. And I will explain that here. So these are my classes and how they relate through various object properties. Let's start with the train. There are two major types. You have the classic locomotive hauled train, which is composed of a powered locomotive and a series of unpowered passenger cars of the many different varieties I just showed you. In the passenger train travel domain, these are the trains that travel long distances between cities, as opposed to the multiple units, which is a type of train composed of a series of powered coaches. These are the types of trains that go short distances, like commuter trains, subways, light rail, and that sort of thing. So, both multiple unit cars and locomotives have a power source, electricity, diesel, back in the day steam. Both locomotives and railroad cars have a manufacturer. The other type of company in my domain is the railway company, such as Amtrak, which operates a route. Routes, of course, have trains on them. They routes have a couple different types of relationships with the train stations. A train station can be just one of many stops on a route, or it can be the starting or end point of a route, a terminus. Countries have routes, several. I think that's an important category to have, to be able to see, which routes exist in a country. Track gauge is also actually a very salient feature for a route. But moving along, let's take a look at my data type properties. As you can see, most all of these relate to route and station. I'll go into what these are when we take a look at my ontology in Top Grade Composer. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so here we are in Top Grade. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take a ride through my passenger train ontology. Since I'm in Seattle, let's start here. Seattle is home to the King Street station, so let's head there. Here's some basic facts about the station. I created this Boolean data type property to indicate whether or not train stations, routes, and trains are active or retired. In this case, the station's still going. Here's the address. It looks like it has 9 tracks. Here is its station code. It was opened in 1906. It looks like it's the endpoint for a couple different routes I have, including the Empire Builder. So let's head on that one. Alright, so the Empire Builder, also still running. Looks like about 1,300 people per day travel it. It takes them about 46 hours end to end to do so. Typically at a speed of about 50 miles per hour. Again, end to end, it runs 2,600 miles. You can go up to 80 miles per hour if needs be on it. Between endpoints, there are 43 intermediate stops. And it looks like this route began running in 1929. Amtrak currently operates it. And here's a couple different trains I have on. Let's take a look at this 1963 consist. Alright, as you might gather from the 1963 in the name, this is a historic consist. It is not active. Here's a bunch of different passenger cars that made up the consist. One thing, I currently only have the has passenger car object property. If I wanted to make this semantically richer, I might consider doing an individual object property for every subclass of passenger car, has sleeper car, has lounge car, etc. For the sake of this assignment and manageability, I did not, but something I could do in the future. Let's take a look at the locomotive. Looks like it has 2. The EMD F7, manufactured by General Motors, and it is a diesel locomotive. Alright, let's head back to our routes and find an active train to take. Yep, the 808. Once again, here are the passenger cars that make up the consist. One issue I had is a problem of knowing how to represent multiple instances of the same value. For instance, there are like 6 different Superliner 2 sleepers in this particular train. I'm not sure how to include more than one, so it's something else I'd like to figure out. Alright, looks like the Empire Builder uses standard gauge track and ends at the Chicago Union Station, so let's head there. We just came in on the Empire Builder. Looks like there's a couple more routes that ends here. There's the California Zephyr and the City of New Orleans. We just came from the West Coast, so let's head down south, which I assume this route goes to. Sure enough, it's going to end at the New Orleans Union Passenger Terminal. After a trip that takes about 19 hours, nearly 1,000 miles. So let's head down there. It looks like on the Amtrak 59. That will be our train. Here we are in New Orleans. Alright. Well, let's try another route. Okay, looks like the famous Sunset Limited will take us back west to Los Angeles Union Station. Looks like the only train I have on it at the moment is a consist from 1929. But you get the idea that for every route, you can add, a number of different trains and show the different consists over time and the different cars and locomotives that you choose. And yep, if you want to see all the routes in the U.S. at once, we can go here to the U.S. of A. See all the cities with stations in them and every route I currently have. So, thank you for taking this little trip with me through my passenger train ontology.